Sten, we're live.
Welcome, another edition of In the Dugout with Mike Stenhouse. And yes, I am, unfortunately for you, the host, Mike Stenhouse, simulating In the Dugout discussions. Today it's going to be like the old days when I used to just sit in the dugout alone, either before or after a game, and just think about life, think about whatever was on my mind. Probably a batting slump I was in at the time or something like that. So I always wear a cap. I'm going to go to my trusty Harvard cap, not because of Harvard. I just think it looks good. It's good, nice looking cap. Let me say this right off the bat. We got a lot to cover. And I'm really in a kind of I don't want to say a foul mood. I'm in a very, very sad mood today. And I'm going to tell you a baseball story first. This is the most upset I have ever been when in a baseball dugout. And I'm counting this the second most time I was upset in a dugout. Let me tell you the first time, nothing to do with politics or anything, but I think you'll appreciate the story of what I'm getting at. I was playing baseball at the peak of my minor league career, 1982, I think it was, in the Dominican Republic. We used to play winter baseball to get a little extra baseball and experience in. It was a lot better than minor league ball. But a lot of American teams would send their top minor league prospects there to get that extra experience. And many times in the Dominican Republic, the opposing team would have legitimate and experienced big leaguers on those teams. I mean, these are hometown teams, Pedro Guerrero, Mario Soto, guys like that used to play in the Pedro Guerrero, if I said that. Used to play in the Julio Franco, used to play in their hometown teams. And I played for the Escogido team, which was in the capital city of Santo Domingo. Now, there were two teams in Santo Domingo. We were the red team, the Escogido Leones, the Lions. And just picture the Yankees and the Mets, the opposing team, your top adversary was the Licey Leones. Excuse me. We're the Escogido Leones, the Red Lions. They're the Licey Tigres, the Blue Tigers. So it was red versus blue, just like in America. Red versus blue. We were the red. I guess that's similar too. And they were the blue. And when we would play against each other, that was all the capital city talked about. I mean, this would be over, November, December, January. Playoffs would be in January and end well before spring training. So one day we're both got good teams. We're playing at maybe for first place in the Dominican Republic. And the crowd these are stadiums might hold 8,000 or 10,000 people. They weren't massive stadiums. Old stadium, old infrastructures, big cement stuff. And they had big cement walls, maybe 20 feet high in the outfield, just cinder block walls in the outfield. Well, there were so many people trying to watch the game that they were climbing up on the outfield walls and literally sitting on top of the walls all around the field. And we were like saying, wow, look at these people. They're just crazy for baseball around here. Well, we always had, because the Dominican Republic, wasn't exactly America, when you travel. So they always had to protect their precious game, and their players we barely noticed them, but there were always armed guards, military guards by the dugout. They were kind of kept out of sight. Well, they kept doing broadcasts over the loudspeaker. Get off the walls. We can't start the game. You get off the walls. They were saying this obviously in Spanish, and I have no idea how to say that. Our teammates from the Dominican would tell us what was going on, and they weren't getting off the walls. They just wanted to watch the game. They and more kept coming on, and the PA announcer kept saying, "Get off the wall." All of a sudden, boom, 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 boom! Incredible! The guards from both dugouts just started firing shots in the air, and yes, the people got off the walls at that point. But holy crumb! We looked at each other. We said, I guess we're not in America anymore. Holy crumb. So that was the most upset I have ever been in a baseball dugout. That year, I think it was 1982. It could have been 1984. Those are the two winters I played in Dominican. My memory isn't that good, but I think it was 1982. Today, as I talk to you from in the dugout, there is nothing that has politically saddened me more, outside of maybe deaths of family members. Probably nothing that's ever saddened me more than to see what's transpired in this country in the last week. I mean, what is going on in our country? What has happened to our nation? We've talked over and over again about the shock we saw at our nation's capital being overrun. And as shocking as that was, I am more shocked by the response of the left, the media, and the big tech. That was terrible what happened. No violence can ever be condoned. But in America, you don't infringe on our rights. In America, corporations, the media, and leftists don't conspire with elected officials to trample citizens' right of free speech. The crimes we saw from those few lawbreakers, and few hundred, few thousand, I don't know. But it certainly wasn't any big part of the 200,000 who were there peacefully. The crimes we saw from those few should not be used as an excuse to punish and silence, other Americans who might hold similar beliefs. But this is not how the far left thinks. Today's show is all about the cancel culture. The left believes that if you hold views different than ours, all we need is some little hook and we can shut you down. You tell me who the true American patriots are. You tell me, or who's not a true American patriot. True American patriots do not storm and vandalize a nation's capital. We said that. Nor any public or private property. Nor do they plant bombs. True American patriots cherish private property rights of Americans. Everyone who committed a federal crime must be prosecuted. But we must not go on witch hunts. There's rumors of witch hunts. U.S. attorneys looking to blame anybody, somebody, especially on the other side, to make them scapegoats. That's not justice. That's not America. True American patriots do not inflict physical harm or on law enforcement who are performing their legitimate peacekeeping duties. True American patriots respect the rule of law and those who are tasked with enforcing it. Let's be clear. Those people who attacked the Capitol and committed violence, and I use the word attacked, I'm separating those from the people who might have occupied it, in my view. Those who attacked are not true American patriots. True American patriots do not seek to restrict the free speech of others, regardless of what happened anywhere in this country. True American patriots believe in everyone's right to express their own views. True American patriots do not seek to destroy those who hold different political views. True American patriots do not engage in the cancel culture. In fact, true American patriots would defend their opponents, our opponents' right to hold and advocate as passionately and peacefully as they want for their opposing views. I will defend to my last breath anybody on the left's right to express their views. What we're seeing now, this cancel culture, is not American. It is not patriotism. True American patriots do not cheer when their friends in big tech or big media censor free speech. True American patriots rely on an unbiased media and on tech companies to put forth fair and truthful accounts. As I have seen, and we're going to go to some callers here in just a second, as I have warned for years, what we are seeing right now in America is political correctness and wokeness gone wild. Absolutely bat wild. To me, this is what being woke is. Blinders on, seeing only what your leaders tell you or show you, thinking only what your leaders and the media tell you to think, having no independent thought, mindlessly repeating and parroting talking points without having any idea about what you're talking about. If that is being woke, no thank you. Larry, do we, before I go on, do we have some callers we want to get to?
Dan, I'm just trying to verify them now. Let's give it a few minutes and I'll let you know when it's okay. All right?
All right. Thank you. So it was one thing, I've said this many, it was one thing, I think 10 or 15 years ago, political correctness was this kind of funny way of looking at things, very odd, right? Very, and we laughed about it when we talk about it at the water cooler or at the dinner table. Like what these people are saying over here. My goodness, are they fringe, kind of off the reservation? And most people agreed with that. It barely, if it made the news, it would make the news as, look at this kind of weird story. But now these attitudes, and I don't understand how, but these attitudes now, these equally silly, childish, mindless attitudes have taken root in our American politics. Public policy is determined on a whim by whatever the short-term political correct wind of the day is blowing. Immediately, policy is crafted and implemented by lawmakers who have blinders on, no ability to think for themselves or see the bigger picture. And now political correctness is ruling the media. It's ruling big corporations. We're going to get into that in a little later. Who will shut you down, who will turn off one side, who will cover up obvious stories. All for political correct wokeness. What is this? Is a disease, folks. Political correct wokeness is a disease. You are not woke. You are hypnotized. You are in a trance by these socialist left tyrants. I don't even know what to call them. And yet, we get labeled as the crazy ones by seemingly the whole world if we just think normal, traditional thoughts. If we're not the ones to throw away our principles, to disavow our nation's constitution, and immediately jump over to the political correct thought of the day, trying to make us seem like we're the crazy ones, and we're not, and don't let them make you feel that way. We're going to talk about Representative Justin Price, who they're trying to throw out of office right now, and a little bit later in the show. How did we get to this point? So here's my theory. You ready for this one? I talked to a friend of mine on the liberal left today. I won't mention names. And it started to click. What's going on here? And I'm going to say it's the media. The media has created two alternative universes in America that have no connection to each other. You've heard us say on this show, the liberal land and make-believe many times. Like, how can you live with such obviously silly, obviously non-scientific, obviously un-American unconstitutional thoughts. How can we, are we the crazy ones, or are they the crazy? We always tend to think we're not crazy, and we always think it's the other guy who's crazy. So that even might be a legitimate question. Who's really the ones living in the land of make-believe? But the point being, we're living in completely separate universes. Why? So I talked to this person today, this liberal person today, and he was talking about election fraud in Georgia. He said, Mike, there's no evidence down there. There's 2 people they've showed, dead people who voted. That's it. Why do you want to over? I said, 2 people. I said, nobody out of state voting, nobody under 18 voting, nobody who voted who didn't complete an application, for a ballot. Nope, just 2 people is all I heard. And we talked later, and he said, and then regarding Justin Price, well, it's obvious that there were no BLM or Antifa people in among those 200,000 people, or among those few thousand that stormed the Capitol. I go, what do you mean it's obvious? And then what I realize is, if you watch CNN or MSNBC all the time, you get a completely different set of news than if you watch Newsmax. It used to be Fox News, OAN. I try to monitor them all. I certainly read reports on what the left and right are saying, even I tend to watch one group more. But we only know what we are told by the media. And what we're being told by the media, doesn't even closely resemble each other. So your worldview, your view of the news, if you watch the leftist news versus the right news, the conservative news, the liberal news, you have a completely different view of the world. And it's not that these people don't appreciate the principles. They're just being, if you get, what do they say? Lousy input in, lousy output, right? So if all you're getting is one kind of input, you're only going to conclude one kind of output. And I forget how that saying goes, but I'm not very good at those kinds of little lines. But Ross Perot was the master at those. But this is what's going on. The media is so dishonest. Either they're exaggerating it one way or they're exaggerating it another way. But depending on what media you watch, and we all like to watch what we want to hear. That's part of our problem too as humans, but that's human nature. But at least we should be watching an honest media. So that explains how we can be living in these 2 different lands. But how do we get to the point where this cancel culture has taken such root in our society? And I really can't answer that one. Again, I think it's the media. I think, and so I'm going to agree with Donald Trump that the fake news media, and that's my view, right? They obviously see our media as the fake news. That's the rub, right? That's what I'm talking about. But through my lens, when the fake news media will allow their allies, their politicians, their elected officials, their talking heads on TV to say anything they want, to be as irresponsible as I'm going to show you in this show, as irresponsible as they want in making accusations or making claims. And they know that there's nobody that's going to criticize them. And I can even take it to the point where I'm going to cancel somebody else out. I'm going to end public debate. The enemies of debate, we call it. We've used that term for years. The left is the enemy of debate. They do not want debate. They want totalitarianism. And they can demand that when the media won't criticize them. Well, their own media anyway. They don't see it when a center-right media criticizes them. So again, they've been emboldened, right? First of all, they've been hypnotized with these blinders on. And then second of all, they've been emboldened to be able to say anything they want by a culture and a media and a political class that refuses to criticize them if they say the right thing. At least the right thing as far as their point of view is concerned. And then the other thing about, and this is all designed to advance a leftist agenda. And the thing I'm so sad about, especially I saw yesterday, let me show you this as well. Yesterday, there was an announcement of the first bill that's going to be introduced in the General Assembly this year. And that bill is in the Senate, S0001, that's the bill number, S0001, very first bill to increase the minimum wage to $15. Does anyone realize we've just been through a crushing pandemic, medically and economically? That small businesses especially have been devastated by these shutdowns. And we're trying to get employment back. We're trying to get people back to work. We're trying to get businesses back on their feet. And now we want to further burden those brave entrepreneurs who invested their savings, probably their life savings in many instances. And we want to put further burdens on them when it comes to hiring back people. And of course, we all know the left, again, the left land and make-believe believes that you could increase the price of a product, and people are a commodity. People are a commodity. Workers are a commodity. You know, if a candy bar today is $1, then you can expect that, you know, X number of people will buy them. But if you raise the price to $3, then economics, it's a science, social science of economics says then way less than X number of people will buy that. Well, it's the same thing with workers. If it costs X to hire a worker today, and tomorrow it's going to cost X plus whatever, there's going to be less demand for those workers. It has to be. It's the law of economics. Just like there's laws of physics we live under, these are the laws of economics, of supply and demand. But the left wants to think that doesn't apply when it's their idea, when it's their policy. But again, how tone deaf can you be to have the first bill out of the box to further stomp your foot on the back of struggling small businesses? And then they want to raise the gas tax. The governor wants to commit us to a gas tax hike of 23, 26 cents. How many families, how many businesses are struggling that use their cars, that use their vehicles, either to go to work or to deliver goods and products? You see what I mean? The liberal left agenda is the ultimate. Regardless of what's going on in the world, regardless of whether it's going to harm people or harm the state or harm the economy or lose jobs, we must continue the agenda. This is a robotic, blinders on, right? We must advance the agenda no matter what is going on in the world and no matter what it does to the world. So I'll go back to Larry, and you know, I'm going to get into corporate socialism next. But Larry, do we have any comments or calls we want to take right now?
Yeah, let's see if Randy wants to say hello. Randy, if you want to say hello, unmute yourself.
Randy, unmute yourself. Welcome to In the Dugout if you'd like to have a comment. All right, who should we go to next?
All right, nothing from Randy. Let's go to the phone number that begins 401-827. If you want to say hello, unmute yourself now.
Yeah, it's the one problem with this technology is we can't pre-screen people on these calls. Ron, are you there, Ron? Would you like to make a comment, Ron?
No comment yet. I'm new to this site, and I'm just going to watch for a while.
Okay, all right.
Welcome,
Raise,
Ron.
mute yourself and then raise your hand with the participant button in the participant area if you'd like to ask a question. That might be a good thing to do. Larry, why don't we ask anybody who's in? We see we have a bunch of people on the Zoom. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, raise your hand. Click the participant tab and then hit the green. Where's the raise your hand? Isn't there a raise your hand button there somehow?
Claire wants to say hello now. Let's see what Claire has to say.
Okay, let's go to Claire. Claire, welcome in the Dugout.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Claire.
Hi. Mike, you and I have spoken before, and I have been a very interested participant. I've listened in to some of the Zoom meetings, and I've read your writings. I can just say, without going into any detail, what interests me today was the headline, cancel culture. I had a 30-year career that was destroyed pretty much overnight in 48 hours this summer because I showed support for law enforcement. And now to see the hypocrisy of the whole situation, it's very frustrating. And the comment that you just made, that our political leadership has failed us, they have forgotten about everyday people, good people who are well-intentioned. Let's say you're a member of a law enforcement family, and of course you're going to stand up for law enforcement. And if you believe that every life matters, but you personally believe that an organization such as the Black Lives Matters organization, I'm just saying the organization, is anti-violent, in today's world, that can deem you a racist and you can lose your career overnight. And it's wrong. And I stayed quiet. I stayed quiet for a long time, but I think the violence that happened last week was horrific. But the fact that it's being manipulated, and the hypocrisy of it all is just, I don't know how we get on a different path, but we have to get off of the path we're on.
Claire, I remember our talk, and I won't go into specifics, but I recall that you had a very, very successful career. You are as good as it gets in your industry, and yet one little misinterpreted comment or post, and it's done. It's over with. And I ask you, who are the patriots? Those who will speak out when we should have debate in this country, or those who want to pretend you're being violent, those who want to pretend you're fomenting an insurrection, those who want to pretend that peaceful people were part of a pre-organized coup on the government of the United States. Who's living in the land of make-believe? I don't know what we do about it. We'll just comment on it. So let me move on a little bit, and again, raise your hand or click the green arrow in the participants tab if you'd like to, if you're on board and you'd like to make a comment or ask a question. So what we're also seeing as part of this cancel culture, which was one thing for politicians to try to cancel you. It was another thing for the media to criticize you. But now we see big business openly taking sides and engaging in promoting the cancel culture. I call it corporate socialism. Socialism, technically, is when the government controls the means of production. And while we may not have that direct control, we have the quid pro quo control. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours if you do what we want. If you help us advance our agenda and you help us get rid of our enemies. I don't need to give you all the examples of the social media companies closing down accounts from the president and on down. I got an email from a citizen today. He didn't want to come on the show. That's fine. Respect his privacy. Who said I had my Twitter account shut down today. We've had our Twitter accounts temporarily suspended as well. But it's not just social media now. Let me show you some of these. Let me show you some of these headlines that I just came across just today. I mean, just today without even looking. So here's one. Some of America's biggest companies said, no way we're going to do any more donations to Republican Congress members who might have constitutionally objected to electoral college votes. I don't know how many senators and Congress people exactly voted, but that was a constitutional act. This is the blinders. They were told, and I don't understand how corporations with boards of directors, with smart people, men and women on their board, CEOs, who should have some idea of what goes on in the world, they can make such absolutely moronic, and I mean absolutely moronic decisions. Do they not understand that Democrats tried the same stuff many times in the past? Republicans tried it this year. This is a constitutional play to challenge when there's appearances of impropriety or fraud, to challenge election results. It's in the Constitution. It's been done before. The growing list of corporations: Blue Cross Blue Shield, Citigroup, Commerce Bank, Marriott. Let me read you a quote from Catholic League President Bill Donahue. Just happened to get an email, came on my inbox right before, on the latest attacks on freedom of speech. The ignorance of this concept of freedom of speech by leftist politicians, by the media, and by big corporations. It's amazing. You can only be left to think that they're colluding, that it is corporate socialism. They're all colluding on how to advance the leftist agenda. And I'm going to get into that in a second. Well, I should get into that now, because it's no more the case that the Republicans are the friends of big business. It's now the liberal left. It's the socialist left, because that's the way they dominate you. When they can get business and the media to take sides with them, they can control, they can shut you down and shut us down anytime they want. In exchange for that, they get favoritism treatment legislatively. In exchange for that, the lawmakers get massive donations or massive positive exposure, in-kind donations, unofficially, if you would. It's been the left who's been complaining for decades about dark money, when right now it's they themselves who are just benefiting. And this is unthinkable dark money. Bill Donahue from the Catholic League. The censoring of Parler by Amazon, Google, and Apple is the most serious assault on freedom of speech we have ever seen by private companies in American history. Instead of addressing those who are truly responsible for abusing free speech and potentially fomenting violence, truly doing it, like Kamala Harris, who cheered on the violent protesters over the summer. With those words, big tech is now seeking to censor conservative voices in general. For justification, again, this is with their blinders on, says Bill Donahue, they are following the lead of pundits and activists who are blaming President Trump and his supporters for the violence that took place last week in Washington, D.C. President Trump said nothing insightful. You all know that. You watch his speech.
Like Kamala Harris.
The argument, please mute everybody, Larry. All right. Nothing President Trump said was in any way an incitement to violence. Indeed, it was protected speech under the First Amendment, which the U.S. Supreme Court has been very clear about. And he went on to describe those rulings. Because you know why? This is how it works. As we just said, this is the quid pro quo. It's a good cartoon I saw today. How does a bill become law? Pay it off. Somebody gets bought off to advance it. And what I've learned in Rhode Island, I'll tell you what, what I've learned in Rhode Island, it doesn't, you don't, it's not just 1 year. You got to pay the piper. You got to pay the bribe. You got to donate to the lawmakers for 3, 4, 5 years before they're going to move your bill. These lawmakers are too smart to just say, I'm going to take 1 year's worth of money from you. They just keep rolling it in. All right, yep, I'll work on it. Maybe next year, keep the money coming, maybe. And then eventually, of course, they got to give them the payoff or else the next company's not going to donate. And they do give them the goods. Money, the love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. Remember that. And it's the love of money that supports political campaigns, creates favoritism laws, like we're going to talk about here in Rhode Island in just a second. Why do you think the U.S. Senate didn't pass that Section 230 reform? Those are all getting their pockets lined by big business. They don't care what's best for America. They don't care that you and I are getting shut down. They don't care that those aren't true journalistic entities. Those big Facebook, Twitter, Google, they put millions of dollars collectively into lawmakers' pockets. They're not going to stop that gravy train. And the liberals cheer. The liberals cheer. Take a look at this. You think it's not even going to get worse than that? Ready for this one? If you saw this breaking late this afternoon. So the Homeland Security Chair, Democrat from, I think, Mississippi, is going to threaten for taking part in a constitutional act. Again, the ignorance of these people is astounding. Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, the two senators who seconded the objections. It was Arizona and Pennsylvania last week in Congress, one before, one after the riots. The chair of the Homeland Security, for partisan reasons, is talking about putting them on the no-fly list, as if they were terrorists. What the hell is going on? How much confidence are we going to have in our Homeland Security if they're going to list as terrorist-like committed patriots? I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. None of these people did anything to fuel an insurrection. This is insane. And the liberals cheer. I talked just a minute ago about government protectionism. Well, it happens right here. Again, this is why this is such a sad day today. Take a look at this one. Go local Providence. Senate President Dominic Ruggiero. The headline looks innocent enough to introduce a bill to place a moratorium on for-profit hospitals. What this was designed to do was to protect lifespan from any competition in the state, any other hospital coming in and buying up some of these other hospitals. There's all kinds of mergers and things but no, Dominic Ruggiero will not allow the free market to work. He's obviously getting paid off to protect lifespan from any further competition. Corporate socialism. I may not have my hospitals right. I don't know if it's Care New England or Lifespan, but anyway, it's a protectionist play. I don't even, we don't pay attention to all this hospital merger stuff. That should be private sector stuff. We deal in public policy. So I honestly haven't paid attention. So whether it's Lifespan or Care New England, I'm not sure, or whether they're one and the same now. I don't even know. And that should be stay the hell out of the private sector. Who do these people think they are?
Stan, do you want to go to callers?
Let's go to a caller.
All right. The phone number beginning in 743, hit *6 now, unauthorized on YouTube. *6.
Hello, are you there? Welcome to In the Dugout.
Hello, how you guys doing?
All right, good day. What's your thought?
Love you guys. Moved to Rhode Island from New York, and I thought it would have more freedoms, and I did for some time. I'm actually a naturalized citizen coming from Russia.
Wow.
And Army veteran, combat arms, so I didn't take out an easy job as far as a cook or automotive mechanic or anything else,
Does what you're seeing remind you of what you either experienced or heard about back in the Soviet Russia?
Exactly. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you is that the gun laws, I escaped New York, and the only reason that I moved to Rhode Island was specifically for the Second Amendment. I was looking New Hampshire, New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, sorry. And I just can't believe. Every single time there's a protest or peaceful gathering at the state capitol, I go and I attend because you people have to be grateful.
Should you be called a terrorist for attending a rally?
No.
Should you be called a white supremacist for attending a rally?
No, not at all.
Peaceful, loving Americans are being called that by our own lawmakers right in this state, as I'm going to show everyone in just a few minutes.
And I know. And in Russia, they just send out special forces that displace the people. It's extremely tough. So, look into Soviet Russia because it's still not completely democratic in my state of mind.
Right.
As far as everything goes. But, I love Rhode Island. It's a fantastic state. I would love to support it, but when I try to open up a small business, my local town sent me a receipt for everything that I pretty much have. And my mother worked for a law firm in New York previously. So she read through the whole statement and she says, don't do it because they want to charge me tax on what I own before I can even open up a business.
Oh, yeah, the
so which means before I can even make a single penny, like if my computer is worth, that they say it's worth $3,000, I got to pay them taxes on it before I can open up a business.
All right. Well, listen, by the way, all right, so I'm going to move on and comment. What was your first name?
Vladimir. And I live in Richmond. I support Justin Price and
all right. We're going to talk about him in just a minute. Vladimir, thank you for calling in. So listen, everybody. Thank you, Vladimir. Wow. Have we reached the tipping point when somebody who's got a communist Russian background tells you that what he sees happening in this country and in this state reminds him of that? Can that be a wake-up call? Who can believe this is even happening in this country? Vladimir, that was amazing. Thank you. We hope you'll call back. We hope you'll keep monitoring the show. So, I've got a lot else to say, but let's, we've got very quickly, we've got, Cumulus, which runs WPRO, cracking down on its host, telling them now what they can't talk about. Okay. More of the cancel culture that doesn't fit what you can in those blinders. If it doesn't fit, you're canceled. You can't do it. No, no, no. Let's go to Justin Price. So just by way of background, you probably all know the story. So one of our state reps from Richmond, right where Vladimir is from. Vladimir said he supports Justin Price. So do we. He went to the rally last week. I have not talked to him, traded some text with him, talked to others who have talked to him. And he basically said, I think he said, as soon as he heard some of the flashbangs and things, he turned around and went home. Didn't go to the Capitol. That's his statement. But the thing that appears to be most, so first of all, so let's just show you this. So treasurer, the treasurer of the state, rather than focusing on the money and managing the money in the state, he's taking a partisan position and he's calling for Representative Price to step down. The U.S. attorney, yes, I think it was appointed. Yes, it was appointed by Trump, but it was basically appointed by Senator Reid Whitehouse, who cut a deal with Trump to appoint a left-wing, at least as far as I understand it, U.S. attorney. They vowed to hunt down peaceful protesters as if they were terrorists. Joe Shekarchi, the Speaker of the House, shame on him. Instead of saying you're innocent until proven guilty, which is the American way, pretty much indicts Representative Price on his home. Well, if he did anything illegal, he's out of here. That's not leadership. This is a sad beginning for leader Joseph Shekarchi. Justin Price says, yes, I marched for the Capitol with 1 million other peaceful patriots. And then he went on to commit the real sin, according to the left. He invoked Antifa, BLM, and put out some blame on them for being part of the violence. Now, here's where this ties in to my earlier discussion. According to the left and their reporting, there was no BLM or Antifa activists in the group last week. According to Fox News and other center-right media outlets, if you would, there was one person, I've seen the story, a guy named John Sullivan. He's a known left-wing activist, was there. He was arrested. He was released. He was right next to the woman that got shot. He admitted it when she got shot. Now, he's trying to say he was just here to document and watch everything. Okay. But we don't know, right? That's the point. We don't know. Justin Price doesn't know. Aaron Regenberg doesn't know. Seth Magaziner doesn't know. What they only think they know is what their media is reporting to them. The left-wing media is reporting there were no BLM activists. The right-wing media is reporting there is. And Justin Katzen repeating something he read on the news is now being called a liar, spreading false information, dangerous to the state. What? Here's the official statement from our state treasurer, Seth Magaziner. And I'm gonna tear this apart. I mean, this is such ignorance. The first thing in the purple, the general treasurer, you can see the contact was the communications director of the Treasury of Rhode Island government. using his office and his staff and his letterhead for overt political purposes like he did here itself. I don't know if it's a violation of law, but it's unethical and it's immoral, and it goes against a directive from the director of administration, Richard Leach, who's now a judge, back in 2012. I don't have that to show you right now, but trust me, I've read it. That's the first mistake here. He has no right using his office in such a partisan way. He calls conspiracy theorists. Those people went to support Donald Trump. Americans have every right to contest an election. There are constitutional avenues, there are legal avenues, there are legislative avenues. There is obvious evidence of fraud. But again, on the left, they don't know that because they have never, the news has never even shown them one piece of evidence of fraud. So they don't understand, they don't see what we've seen. Now, has our leg been pulled? Was there not as much real evidence as we've? I don't know. How the hell do we know? Just two views on this. Because you subscribe to one view doesn't make you a conspiracy theorist. That's the point. Magaziner, Seth Magaziner, our state treasurer, white supremacists. First of all, I saw many mixed race people down there in that rally with pro-Trump hats on, with pro-America hats on. White supremacist has become the new word to say rather than racist. It's thrown around ignorantly, cavalierly, and anyone who does that, he questions the lack of judgment right here of Representative Price. I question his judgment for throwing around such trite terms as cavalierly as he does. And again, the liberal left god of the day, of the year, mask, got to wear a mask, and even goes on to refuse to wear a mask. And Justin Price was in the chambers last week. Why that's thrown in there, I don't know. This is just a childish way the left thinks. All this demonstrated that Rep. Price lacks the judgment. He should resign. You should resign, Seth Magaziner. If you don't understand the concept of free speech in this country, you abuse your office, if you stereotype people as conspiracy theorists and white supremacists without having any knowledge about that, you tell me who lacks judgment. He goes on to say, well, first he calls for his resignation. Sue Cienki, the chairman of Rhode Island GOP, was on the radio yesterday, I think with Tara Granahan. She did a terrific job. It's not Seth Magaziner's call. We're going to show you Aaron Regenberg's letter. It's not Aaron Reagan. It's not anyone's call, but the people of Richmond who elected Justin Price, whether or not they want to recall him or they don't re-elect him. But they re-elected him, and they elected him and re-elected him many times. It's up to them. Representative Price did nothing wrong in attending a peaceful rally or peacefully attending a rally, peacefully himself. And just repeating a story that was in the mainstream media. It was the right media, but it was the mainstream media. And no way the House Republican caucus should expel him. But something about the House Republican caucus. Through an intermediary, we were about to have Rep. Price on this show today. And he was going to tell his full story. And then he pulled out. And then I learned it was because Republican caucus told him not to do any media. They're hoping this story is just going to go away. Well, just today, many other groups are ratcheting up. This story is not, the left does not let go. This story is not going to go away. Rep Price's silence makes him look like he's hiding something. He wanted to tell his story to you and to us. But the Republican caucus said, no, stick your head in the sand. Let's just hope it all goes away. Wrong move. Justin Price, the Republicans have the moral high ground here. It is the left. It is the media. It is Aaron Regenberg. It is Seth Magaziner. It is the Democrat Party who is now called for his resignation. It is the 12 congressmen who signed a letter. I'll quickly show you in a minute. They are the ones who have no clue as to how America works, about what the concept of free speech is, about the concept of civil and engaged and vigorous debate. They're the ones who have no concept what freedom is. Justin Price exhibited his freedom, exercised his First Amendment rights to peaceably assemble, exercise his rights to make an opinion on a news story. Anyone who doesn't understand that, they're the ones that should resign from office.
Stan, we got Roland on the line. When do you want him?
Hold on, let me finish this thought. Thank you, Larry. Just hold a few more minutes. Here's what the Republican caucus did initially say. And that was from Blake Filippi, and he's exactly right on this. House members are expelled for bad acts. Think of John Carlavale and then Gordon Fox and who was the other guy that was brought up on Ray Gallison. Even when they were brought up on charges, they're Democrat on federal criminal charges. Obvious, clear, ethical lapses. They did nothing to remove them from the House. They just let it play out. Bad acts get you expelled, not bad thoughts, not patriotic constitutional actions. And Blake Filippi is exactly right here. And again, Speaker of the House Shekarchi, not off to a good start. Basically here implying that Rep Price has done something wrong. Let me quickly, then we'll get to our caller, quickly just show you two other things. Here's a letter. Again, this is a letter from former representative and admitted socialist progressive Aaron Regenberg. Again, violent coups, conspiracy theories, ongoing threat to our democracy. These people have no clue. They are all repeating the same talking points mindlessly. Liberalism has become mindless parroting. I parrot what my masters tell me. There was a letter from 12 other senators and representatives echoing the exact same words. These people have no capacity to think for themselves. All right, let's go to the phones and talk to Roland. Roland, welcome back to In the Dugout. What do you got today?
Yeah, Mike, I did call Seth Magazine's office at Rosie Hilma at the bottom. And actually, I didn't know about that letter until somebody sent that to me, through Messenger. And what they pointed out was, I'm not familiar with the Hatch Act. It's not one of my stronger points, but apparently there's a section in there called the pernicious political activity, which means that, the Hatch Act means, yes, you can't,
yes.
So in other words, you can't use a political office to go after another political person. And where Seth Mag might have tripped himself up is his statement went out on stationery from his office. So public funds were used to do that. And somebody could make a loose argument, although in this state, You'll never get a Democrat to be convicted of anything, pretty much, other than like a Ray Gallison, like you mentioned. But do you know anything more about that clause
Well,
called the
yeah, a
pernicious
little bit.
political activity?
Just a little, Roland. I'm not a lawyer, but I have talked to some attorneys and I have talked to some citizens. I can tell you that one citizen has filed a complaint with the state police about this, about Seth Magaziner using his office for political purposes. So it clearly violates the directive put forth by, like I said earlier, Richard Leach when he was director of administration for Governor Chafee, that all state employees should refrain from using their office for such terms. Hatch Act has a little wrinkle in it that may provide the out for Magaziner. The Hatch Act applies, if you think about it, it makes sense. Hatch Act applies to classified employees, state employees or federal employees. Those are employees who are not elected. You're appointed. You're there to run a department or something like working at a department of Homeland Security or whatever. You're there to do that. Elected officials are always partisan, right? You think on both sides, Ted Cruz, Bernie Sanders, whatever, right? So elected officials have more leeway to be partisan than do unelected bureaucrats, if you would. Whether or not, so there's nothing against Seth Magaziner being partisan. The question I'm not sure of is whether or not it's proper to use the official powers of his office, right? The communications director, the letterhead, the email of that office, the actual email account to be partisan. If he's out there talking on the news or wherever, he can be as partisan as he wants as a non-classified employee.
Right. If he was to write an opinion in the Providence Journal, that's his own opinion. That's not from the office of the treasurer.
The question is, when he used that official letterhead, the communications director who worked for the state and the state email to send that out, whether he violates. So we're going to have to dig into that a little bit more. I don't know that answer right now. I didn't get a satisfactory answer from any of the people I talked to earlier today, but we'll look into that. Great question, Roland, and thanks as always for calling in.
Okay.
So, we don't have a 1 hour limit. We don't have to end at 5 like others do, but we'll probably start winding it down here with a few final thoughts. What we are seeing in America and in the state is business, the media, left-wing zealots, and I have to say Democrats. I can't prove they're conspiring, but seemingly conspiring together to end debate. We have a First Amendment, free speech amendment in our Constitution. It's the reason it's the First Amendment, so that we can have vigorous debate. It's what our nation was built upon. It's in our history. It's in our blood. The First Amendment, it's known all over the world. And yet now to see this country, the government of this country, conspiring with corrupt media, corporate advocacy groups to stifle that debate. Censorship like we have never seen or ever could have imagined before in this country. wokeness, they call it. Let's take a look at that again. This is what wokeness is to me. Blinders. Yes, master. No, master. Yes, Mr. Head of my party. No, Mrs. Head of my party. Whatever you say. I see nothing else. I will consider nothing else. I will say nothing else other than what you tell me to say. If that's woke, wish people would go back to sleep. It's better that they be asleep and unengaged than it is to be woke and un-American. Thank you for watching In the Dugout. Cancel culture. Will we be canceled soon? We'll let you know. In the Dugout, Mike stand up.